So I grew up born of and raised by two immigrant parents from northern Mexico. All of my dad's from a family of 7, mom's from a family of 8. So lots of aunts and uncles, and the vast majority of them still are in Hermosillo, Sonora, just a 6-hour drive from here. And it's such a joy to grow up, kind of being able to go back and forth between these two cultures, two languages. It was a real gift to me. So I've always known I'm Mexican, that Mexican blood flows through my veins. But there's been a bit of confusion as well in there because, for one, my last name, Camou, is not Mexican. It's actually French. So my dad showed me a little genealogy that my grandfather put together, where we can trace back, it was about 6 generations ago. Jean-Pierre Camou came to Mexico, made babies, and here we are. Now, fascinating, interesting. I guess that kind of explains why I probably have lighter skin than most Mexicans or some Mexicans, because there's a lot of European blood from the French. Well, one day, after my grandmother had passed away, we're going through my grandma's stuff, and there's this picture, black and white portrait, of this lovely German-looking woman. And I was like, who's that? And my aunt says, oh, that's your great-great-great-grandmother from Germany. So I'm more German than I am French? So who knows what I am? But I find all that fascinating, especially today as we think of Pentecost, that your heritage as Catholics, as Christians, by your baptism, there is a heritage flowing through your spiritual veins, if you'll take this metaphor, that comes with gifts, characteristics that you don't even imagine. You've been marked by the Holy Spirit by your baptism and confirmation in such a way that at the core of who you are, even, dare I say, what you are, has been shaped, is a part of, shares in the very life of God. So let's take, for example, the 12 apostles. They received the Holy Spirit. That's the family we belong to. And they're a ragtag team, a whole variety of people, and they ended up, by the Holy Spirit, being able to speak a variety of languages. And all of them came from very different backgrounds, so they even had different accents. There's reference, I don't know if you know this, but there's even reference to some of the apostles, how people kind of didn't take them seriously because they had a funny accent. And I don't mean that was not the Holy Spirit, that was the Galilean accent. But my point is that they were all from different areas, and then they were given these gifts by the Spirit. That's your heritage. And these apostles did amazing things. By the grace of the Holy Spirit, they were able to live in this confidence despite their weaknesses. In fact, maybe even because of their human weakness, they had bold confidence because they saw God do great things, even through them. Jude Thaddeus, the patron of this cathedral, ended up going to the Middle East, to the region what is now Armenia. He brought the faith there. James the Less, of the 2 James apostles, James the Less stayed in Jerusalem, became the great bishop of the Holy Land. Matthew the apostle ended up going to Ethiopia, so into Africa. Thomas the apostle ended up in India. Philip, his mission was to the Greek-speaking people. Andrew and John ended up in the Greek areas as well. John ended up eventually living in what is now Turkey. My point there is guys, the Holy Spirit can do amazing things. And this Holy Spirit is given to us by Jesus, who says to the apostles, as the Father sent me, so I send you. You have a mission. You have a responsibility. You've been blessed. You've been given this amazing heritage. And you have a responsibility to give back with increase. To make your contribution. Because every one of you have different gifts. The Holy Spirit has been compared to water. Water is given to plants. The same kind of H2O goes to apple trees, orange trees, goes to Palo Verdes, goes to the whatever the plant gives you, agave, not the agave. Where does tequila come from? I mean, or the or the healing stuff. Anyways, same water with very different effects. You're called to be yourself, the good self. But recognizing that, no, you're not meant to be a saint like St. Thomas Aquinas or like St. Therese of Lisieux. Or maybe you might be more inclined to the intellectual side like Thomas Aquinas, or you might be more inclined to the simplicity of Therese. But you're called to be yourself. And you know, I kind of like the expression best version of yourself, but you know, it's not like everything, it's incomplete. Because you might think, well, is this the best version? Could I be better? Gosh, better sounds like a lot of expectations, and you start to feel smaller and smaller. So maybe if that's not helpful, just think of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is what's going to help you grow to know and to understand and to live into who you are meant to be. The Holy Spirit is the heritage, the spiritual heritage we've inherited. It's the spiritual blood that flows through our veins. And the Holy Spirit is part of how we're going to be judged. To enter into heaven, we have to be open to live the divine life. And that starts today. You and I have a responsibility. What does that look like? Maybe of the many things that could be said, is to think of what Saint Bonaventure. I recently heard this quote. I believe it's Saint Bonaventure, who was a Franciscan friar in the Middle Ages. I could go on, but he said this: "The Holy Spirit enters where He is loved, where He is invited, where He is expected." Tonight, that's my invitation. Tonight, stretch yourselves to invite the Holy Spirit, to love Him. And you may feel like you don't know Him, or you might feel like you know Him super well. But I invite you to be open to loving the Holy Spirit, to inviting Him, to call upon the Holy Spirit. Come, Holy Spirit, is the easiest prayer in the world. Come, Holy Spirit. To love is actually, in some way, it's to stretch your heart. To stretch your heart to say, I want to take in more than just me in life. I want to have another. It's to stretch your heart to make room for someone else to be at the center of your life. That's what you see in marriage. In every friendship, you make time, you stretch your heart to make space for someone else. It's kind of like breathing. Your diaphragm just makes space for the 14.6 pounds of atmospheric pressure to fill your lungs. So invite the Holy Spirit with love, stretching your heart. And expect the Holy Spirit. Expect the Holy Spirit to be active. Don't expect the Holy Spirit to meet your expectations, but expect the Holy Spirit to show up. And know that might be scary. At one point recently, something happened the other day where somebody was just a little nervous, that certain plans weren't going their way. Like very concrete, like their schedule for the weekend. I don't remember what it was, but it wasn't long ago. I think it was this week. And they were like, gosh, well, I guess it's just one of those moments where you're not in control. And somebody said, one of those moments? You're never in control. Oftentimes we make plans, we think we're kind of in control, but you're not. You hardly have control of what's happening in your body. You have hardly control over your health. You don't have control over others. So today, let's surrender some of that control and expect the Holy Spirit to guide us in His paths. And that would be the best version of ourselves, the version that is led by the Spirit. And it might be really humble, like St. Therese, who didn't go anywhere or do anything. but she impacted hundreds of thousands of people. To this day, she's working miracles in the church. It might be something simple like St. Thomas Aquinas, who was known for being kind of a bookworm, ended up kind of getting overweight. But his writings continue to shape the preparation and formation of future priests and religious throughout the world. That's the best version of you, that lives into its true heritage, the heritage of the apostles, what they received at Pentecost, life in the Spirit.